Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Legal Leverage podcast. Today we have Lucy Sheridan, who I'm very excited to have on with us today. Lucy Sheridan is the world's first and only comparison coach. She helps people all over the world go from compare and despair to comparison-free in their life and business through her unique specialist coaching experiences and events. Lucy has taken the world of coaching by storm, providing one-to-one coaching services, group coaching programs, and memberships to help people grow and excel in their businesses and in their personal lives. Lucy has appeared in Grazia magazine and on the Claudia Winkleman Show on BBC Radio2, and in my personal opinion, is loved by everyone who meets her. And while we're getting personal, I count Lucy as a genuine friend and an amazing ally. She's very kind, warm-hearted, and an absolute badass at business. Lucy, welcome.
Thank you so much. Who do I need to pay for that amazing introduction?
Just pay me in cuddles, that's fine. How are you today?
Yes, not bad at all. Thanks. We're really looking forward to this, Babs.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you on. I'm like your number one fan. So, Lucy, I thought it'd be great if we could have a chat through a little bit about your business and how you've grown and developed, because I think that might be quite helpful to our audience, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been going for about 8 years now.
Perfect.
When I first started, I didn't go full time in what I'm doing now, probably for about 2.5, 3 years or so. So that's a really important part of kind of like, well, I say really important part. I really like to share that with people that are in business, because I think there's a lot of pressure and focus on things happening overnight. Or if you're not just doing your business, then you're not committed. There's a lot of platitudes around that kind of thing, where actually I think, the fact I've had to do like different jobs to actually make sure that my business could survive, I think it can almost make you more, or shows you're more committed. And it's totally normal for we as business owners to have to bridge to the milestones, which are the most important. And sometimes as a business owner, one of your most important milestones is getting to do it full time. Yeah. And we lose sight of what it took to really get there. Before I worked for myself, I worked in the advertising industry. So I was in planning and strategy. So was very much from the corporate world. I would never have considered myself an entrepreneur at all. So again, I kind of do reinforce that with people, in that not all of us are born business owners. Sometimes it's a case of needs must, and we don't feel like we're in choice. Sometimes it is a big, courageous, bold choice you make. But just because you weren't like, selling Mars bars at the age of 14 at the end of the road doesn't mean, you haven't got like a great business future ahead of you, just because you might feel like you don't have much experience. There's so much to be said for learning on the go, setting your own goals that matter most to you, and going from there. So I've been going about 8 years or so. The business has been primarily built on one-to-one work. So me seeing private clients through my programs. At the same time, I've been audience building for about 5 years as well. So what that means is growing social media platforms with a bias to Instagram. So always having some sort of focus on that. And then about 3 years ago, I started to properly think about scaling. Yeah. And then about 2 years ago, I properly start to put in the plan to scale. And what that means, like, just to keep it jargon free, what that meant was to go to put some really solid focus around recruiting for more group programs online, so I could work with more people no matter where they were. Because my business before then was so one-to-one, though, that was a process of like turning a tanker around. It did not happen overnight, because I didn't have the time. I'd be seeing Australian clients at 7:30 in the morning. I'd be seeing American clients at 8 p.m. at night, and then clients in the middle as well. And then trying to remember to brush my teeth and pay my phone bill, etc. For a long time, I didn't have support in the business. So I say that as well, because as much as I, try and be prolific now and specialist and really deliver excellence, it took me a fair bit of time to, get my arse in gear, basically. I saw a lot of my mates take off like air bunnies, like speech marks, take off or go into the online space before I did. But we have to sort of trust the timing, our own timelines, really.
I think it's one of the things that makes you so amazing, is that you're so authentic in everything that you do and everything that you say. And yeah, I think making it clear to people that you don't just wake up as some Dell boy from 5 years old and all of a sudden you've got this amazing business. My fiance is one of those Dell boys at 5 years old who everyone was like, oh, he's going to end up being amazing in business, but I never was. And that doesn't mean that you can't be. It's just a different path.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's a different path, and it's within all of us. It just starts off with a tiny little match, and it's our job to make sure we stoke that to be a really big pizza oven fire. So
why comparison coach? How did you land on that?
Well, comparison was something that I have always struggled with in my life, whether that was comparing to someone else, comparing to my past self, comparing to an idealized version of myself. And I'd noticed it, and I thought everyone kind of experienced it to a point, but through the studying, the study of the work, I realized that I did have it way more acutely than a lot of other people. So I realized that was something I really needed to work on, and was actually kind of the Trojan horse for me to work on myself and help me with my own anxiety, because it used to cause me a lot of anxiety. How I arrived at it in terms of business specialism is I realized, this is, I say 8 years ago, it kind of may as well be 1,000 years ago when it comes to kind of business, because so many things it's moved so quickly and everything's just more accessible now, and it's in so many different ways. But in terms of being able, with audiences being ready to hear from us, when I was getting going about 8 years ago, there wasn't much really, social media was sort of getting there, but there weren't Facebook ads or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I couldn't go on any other data apart from what I was sort of gleaning. And I noticed that when I did maybe a post or a blog post or something about work-life balance, people were kind of interested. When I mentioned comparison, there'd be just a little spike. Everyone had an opinion or could get it in some way. And I realized as well through the work I'd done, both through professional qualifications, but also just personal awareness, basically, I realized that I had a lot to say on it and had a lot that I could do to help people with it. So it all started where I thought, right, I'm going to turn this on for 6 months. I'm going to call myself the comparison coach. And I think that happened on a Thursday evening. And then by Monday morning, I'd rewritten my website, changed all my email signatures, Instagram, Instagram, but social media bios, LinkedIn, etc. And I just changed everything to be very focused on the comparison message. I thought, I'll give this 6 months and I'll just throw myself at it. And I'll contact the press, which I had to do myself, couldn't afford a PR. So I kind of I don't ever use Twitter anymore, but I used Twitter journal requests there and tried to get my name in the press, which started to work and get traction. Slowly, clients started to come into my inbox there, and I kind of got the indicators that I was onto something. So I got enough indicators to think, right, I'm going to stick at this because the idea wouldn't go away. It's what I really wanted to specialize in. I realized I was going to have to be the one to take charge of the message and actually turn it on, basically.
Yeah.
I thought I'll give myself 6 months, and if it's not sticking, I'll do something else, but at least I'll know.
Yeah.
But I did give it 6 months. I did get the traction, the starting traction, because it was a bit of a slow burn. I did get the results that I wanted as my indicators. And from there, I say the rest is history. The rest is a lot of hard work. But in terms of arriving at that, I got enough clarity to know I was onto something good. And the rest was having a lot of courage to follow through in different ways.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Because I don't know, there's no other comparison coach out there.
Well, not that I think there is. No, I don't think there is. The best not be, because I've TM'd it, but no.
Yeah, we've TM'd it. We've TM'd
it. No, I don't think there is. But that's not to say that there won't be more in the future. One of the things that's great about working with you, Babs, is that the vision of my business and where I want to take things. So I'd love to do more in schools and teach teachers the techniques that can work for 5 to 15-year-olds. That's going to need me to be able to franchise out and take the brand further afield. So I lots of people talk about comparison. I didn't make it up, and I don't own this topic. What I do have is kind of an identity closely related to it, which in business is a really valuable asset in itself.
You've made it sparkle.
Oh, bless you.
So obviously we've heard a bit about your journey and how you got here. what were some of the kind of biggest wins over the past few years in terms of your business growth? And if you want to share, and you don't have to, what were some of the low points?
So in terms of wins, well, there were a few. Early on, I remember being able, when I paid my first like rent check wholly from my coaching work, I remember feeling like, "Oof." And then when like, I went on my first mini break funded by it, I remember those things being really, really significant, because they are. And I think the pressure, especially in the online world, it's like used to be 5-figure months, then it's 6-figure this, and now it's gone on to 9-figure businesses. Like there's always going to be a new number to be chasing in the online world, especially if you're in well-being. We must stay really close to what the specific milestones are for us. So I would say those kind of private milestones were important. Then, for example, like getting picked up in the press, like being named like a new well-being specialist by the Sunday Times was really cool. And from there, that's led to a lot of other opportunities. I suppose when it comes to other wins that are kind of maybe more from a commercial point of view, it's being able to reach more people and have more fun and make a bigger impact, and really hold myself to excellence. And also, let's be plain speaking, because we're all a business audience here, enjoying the financial return to come with that.
Yeah.
So with one of my programs last year, we set a Dare to Dream target of $250,000, and we exceeded that, which was absolutely amazing. And like I cried my eyes out. I just was an absolute puddle. But that was kind of like that was sort of a year in the making, really, in terms of proposition being there, the launch being there, not just an announcement, launching it properly, and believing in it, and people seeing that I believed in it, and also like knowing the structure was there to really back it up as well. It felt like I'd really made it to a new level of business, that I could hold it. I could be brave enough to dare to dream, brave enough to make the guarantees, brave enough to welcome hundreds of people into a space, every Tuesday night for 12 weeks, that kind of thing, apart from Christmas. There was a lot that did as a milestone for me in terms of showing me what was possible. And also, I call people that are inspiring, like Pips, proof it's possible. I really felt like it was an initiation into like the next level of my business there. So the danger now is to always be looking to exceed.
Yeah.
So I now have to keep a real like close hold on my ego, basically, because you then want to be following what your pips are doing next, or you want to be saying, oh, I've done that as well, or we did that too, or so that is like an ever going, like continuous sort of challenge. But I think if you're ambitious, and there's nothing wrong with being ambitious, that's not a dirty word, you have to be open to everything it wants to teach you, because it's not necessarily going to happen overnight. And I do think that the things that we learn in business are kind of rude. Like the things I've learned about myself have been like just really rudely delivered, confronting. I've learned things about myself I never wanted to know, never intended to know, but here we are. That's just part of it. But that's all part, it sounds cheesy, but that's all part of the journey. The initiation into it, about being stretched and looking at the parts of yourself that you don't like, and realizing when you make mistakes, and correcting and apologizing, and making sure that you are known for being one of the good ones. Because I think in the coaching industry as well, it's so wild and unregulated. If you're not seen and stand out as someone that is ethical and credible and will deliver on what they say, then you're not one of the good ones. And I think that's really important, to be able to take responsibility for that. In terms of the not so great times, I mean, I would say every 3 years or so, I have what I call a business breakdown, which is when I just completely lose it, and hug a radiator, crying like, "Oh, I can't do it. I don't want to. And who am I?" And
I think I do that. I do that daily, Lucy.
Oh my God. It's thankfully like those occurrences have spread out a lot for me now, and I think partly about that is as well how I've started planning the business is different. So I know what my business is doing a year ahead.
Yeah.
And I like run the business in what I called elegant quarters. So one quarter, there'll be one big launch a quarter, which will be resourced accordingly. Then we have to deliver I have to deliver what I sold. There's no point selling something else and getting excited about that, and then people are still waiting for what they've actually paid for.
Yeah.
But that helps keep me really grounded as well. Like I always, even though I'm absolutely connected to what I'm doing today and in the moment, I always know what's coming next too. And that helps a lot in terms of planning. It helps a lot in terms of like, well, literal financial growth, but also me planning like my day to day and what I'm going to need to do and how I need to make sure I'm being the best I can be. But that said, yeah, once every few years or so, I will have like a full on breakdown. Like my most recent one was July this year. So we're recording this conversation live at the beginning of September, but July, I completely lost it and just like was really weepy. I couldn't go on social media. Would attend to essential WhatsApp messages, deliver for my course and deliver for my clients and deliver for my guests, which is what I call customers, guests, and then nothing else.
Yeah.
And just nothing else, so that I could just hold and keep charge of what was going on. But those things happen for all sorts of reasons. I think part of it can be a reaction to being burnt out, because when you work for yourself, your signs of burnout are different, because it's not like I'm burnt out because I'm so scared of my boss, because like when you're self-employed, your boss is an absolute babe because it's you. Or, I'm not motivated by fear anymore, so I'll just keep digging deep. Or not, I mean, obviously we all have fears, but that's from, I could say that from a therapist, don't worry. But there's lots that was kind of cumulative. It was pandemic, it was exhaustion, it was disappointment in some things, but also I think I've just come through a big 3-year cycle where I am stepping over the threshold into another big phase of my business, which will see me get to the million. And so that's the kind of key, one of like my goals is to reach that milestone entirely for my own reasons. I'm not saying anyone else needs to have financial goals at all. I've assessed it, it's something I'm working towards. But what I'm really clear on now, having like pals that have done it a few times, is that it's not a case of like some of the bigger milestones, financial or otherwise. It's not a case of just doing more of what you did before to get more. It's absolutely a completely different mindset. And so I've had like a big ego death kind of like in July. But part of that as well was, I think, a big purging of everything that I'm not supposed to take into this next phase, and just to surrender it and take the lessons and kind of move on. I would say in terms of other kind of like low points, like I say, like, so I've had 2 pretty significant like shiver my timbers, OMG, kind of like I say, seriously emotionally unstable times. I can't say there have been any like other I've had like difficult days and tiring weeks and months sort of thing. There have been things like, I've had to resign a handful of clients. But once that decision was made, it was a case of communicating it kindly and respectfully, and just communicating it and kind of and completing, which if anyone in business, this is a great term. Rather than be like end or finish, use the word complete. It's really positively framed. It's very, very clear. And you don't have to over-explain anything. So off the back of the last few sessions, I do feel like perhaps we're not the best match. I think this is the best resource for you now. I am proposing that we complete, and as part of that completion, I will do X, Y, and Z. I also would recommend that this is your next port of call for help. Thank you so much. No other invoices, nothing to pay. Be safe, be well, goodbye. That, can take a bit of courage, but once you've made the decision and it's right, you can concentrate on communicating it properly as opposed to dealing with the energy. And then there was I had a bit of an unpleasant experience last year where I realized now I was stalked by an ex customer. And so didn't this before I knew you, Babs, but I had to get a lawyer involved there, and that did make me quite nervous. But it's been, I think it's also important to say I've been kind of online, everybody's getting for a good 8 years, and a lot online, a lot for about 4 or 5 years, and I've only had one serious boundary issue, like as in like negative online experience, and it was this person.
That's amazing, actually, in 8 years. Yeah,
exactly. So I think because of what cancel culture is these days, and the horror stories you read about other people experiencing on Tattle Life, etc., those awful websites, and just things we see kind of blowing up in our corners of the internet, it can make us quite fearful, like it's a dangerous place. Well, you do need to have your wits about you, and there are people that do have ulterior motives, but I have never really been like, I've had people call me out and criticize me, and it's often with good reason. And when it has been, you know, as in like, especially around things that are important about inclusivity. So I've been able to be like, whoa, well, I'm glad I caught that. You know, that was definitely delivered in a very direct way. Ouch, but there it is.
But I've learned it. Yep.
Yeah, but I've learned it. But I can't say, you know, and hopefully it's not tempting fate, but I hope that if you are in business, you are worried about that side of things. Like, I've only ever had a good experience, really. I think that's important, because a big part of making it these days, I suppose, whatever making it means for us as individuals, is being visible and having connections on social media. So I think it's important we don't kind of spend too long on the negatives, because it is actually really amazing. They're really amazing channels for us. I think I can't think of anything else that's like worthy of comment or like specific. There would be any, you know, particular like dark times. Just, I say the usual of just being knackered and not getting enough time off, and not having the time to enjoy the gifts that we're kind of working for, or, you know, working ourselves harder than any boss might do.
It's so funny, isn't it? I mean, what's that phrase? It's something like, you know, you work in an employed role, or you work 35 hours for someone else, or you work 70 for yourself. And it's so true. And it's funny, because sometimes this is the same as you. I never ever expected to be an entrepreneur or anything. I thought I would go up the legal ranks and just stay there and just follow the path, you know, you're meant to follow. And it never worked out that way, because corporate, well, I managed a few years in the corporate world, but it wasn't for me ultimately. I'm too floofy. I smile and have energy, and lawyers don't tend to do that. But I think what's interesting is that we choose this life that's hard. It's emotionally draining. It is draining in general, because it's exhausting. We work these hours, but the rewards off the back of it are so much sweeter because of it.
I mean, they really, really are. And I will say, you know, I could probably work a few hours a day now and not have to, you know, and that's amazing. Like I say, but that was very intentional. You don't just wake up one day and just like decide you're going to turn off parts of your business, because how fun would it be to turn off all that? No, it's about understanding, like, what do you need in the week, and what does that look like? And so what support is there too? And that will come at different stages of the business. There's no way I could have worked a few hours a day by choice at the beginning.
No,
it just wouldn't have happened. The business wouldn't have been able to do what it needed to do. But I think, I know some people that have like holiday work, like, you know, a few hours, a couple of times a week.
Yeah.
But it's about understanding kind of like what you need, because I don't have any regrets. And I do think that working, like really investing yourself in your work and putting in that time, you will always get a reward for it. But there are those times when it feels, I remember just feeling like, when is it ever going to happen? Like, what have I been, am I missing something? I'm doing all the things in the right order. I'm doing all of the things. Like, when is it going to happen? And you do have to go through a bit of, well, I'll say you don't have to go through, you may not do. A lot of us have to go through a bit of a wilderness to get there.
You feel like you're just screaming into an empty room sometimes. It's like, I mean, I think probably with us it maybe didn't last as long as it does with others, but I also think that's because I freelanced in this industry for a really long time, first of all, so I learned a lot of the things through working from working for a similar business model. But still, there was a good amount of time where me and two of the girls that are still with me now started out and we were like, let's try this. Oh, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. But what I find in business is, if you find something that works, it's like putting more ingredients in, and it kind of, it's on an upward trajectory almost immediately.
Completely. And I think as well, something I say this to all business clients, we don't self-promote enough. I know whenever I talk about what I'm going to do or what's coming, I'll generate interest. Someone will sign up for something or buy something. When I don't, they don't. And that can be a bit intimidating, and oh my God, self-promotion. But I actually think what is so great, it really gives us a bit more responsibility. It gives us a bit more choice. You know, if you have monthly targets and it's only the first week, it's like, okay, we're going into week 2 now. You know what you need to achieve by the end of week 4. Like, what can you do today so that you've got traction by the weekend?
Yeah.
There's always something to be said or researched or done or talked about. And one of the things I would say immediately is like, try 100% more self-promotion, 100% more, and see where it gets you, because that is where I attribute a lot of like my first growth spikes to, is that people were used to be, I mean, I call it reassuringly repetitive. They were used to me kind of saying the same thing in different ways over and over. Of course she's got that blog. She's a comparison coach. Of course she's selling that course. She's a comparison coach. Of course she's doing that research. She's a comparison coach.
Yeah.
Like, people build then their perception around us. And that's, you know, something I teach in one of my courses. Like, if property is all about location, then when it comes to the growth of you and your business, it's about perception.
Yeah, for sure.
Because like, being seen as a specialist, even if it's in a handful of things, you don't have to like have a scary niche like I do, in terms of like, I get how tight it is,
niche.
you know, in terms of, I get how tight it is, but I actually talk about a number of things underneath that as an umbrella.
Yeah.
But I choose to trust and believe that even if I wasn't following this path of comparison, which I feel like is closely aligned with my purpose, I wouldn't still be successful. I would find a way to have a compelling message and work with it.
Yeah.
Because people worry about like being unique. Like, we need to worry about being special. Everything's a copy of a copy of a copy.
Yeah.
Even Beyonce struggles to innovate these days.
Yeah.
But how can you, I mean, really like own an area? And part of how we do that is we have to show up and talk about it again
and be authentic in that area. Yeah.
That's it.
I think that's a big thing. And it's some of the feedback I've had is you're really authentic in your videos. And that's why I reached out. And I think authentic for me seems to be messing up my words. Yeah. Saying things on videos like, what was I talking about? Oh yeah. That's what, and I don't cut that out. Now, when I started, I used to cut that out, and I would like do 3 or 4 runs of a video before I'd put it up. I never repeat my videos now unless I've really screwed it up.
Well, done is better than good, isn't it? Like,
absolutely.
One of my values is excellence. That doesn't mean perfection.
No.
You know, I made a mistake on one of the courses I was teaching. A couple of people got really annoyed about it. And I emailed them back, and I said, first of all, I'm really sorry. I made this mistake. This is the mistake I made. This is how I'm going to correct it. And this is how I'm proposing I compensate you. If you've got other ideas, conversation, I want to hear it. You know, so it wasn't perfect. Yeah. But, you know, it was correcting it as soon as we could, taking care of people, showing we care, because we do. Yeah. Because I think that's another thing that I see happen a lot when businesses go through certain scaling milestones, and then something in the founder's energy, it's like a drawbridge coming up, and they suck out the magic ingredient was there before. Yeah. Which might be intimacy, might be familiarity, but the thing that made it special. They suck it away, and it shifts everything.
Yeah, you're so right. Let's talk about the legals, Lucy.
Yes, I'm not scared of this anymore, thanks to you.
Legal Lucy. So what are some of the 3 biggest legal issues that you've faced as a business owner?
Well, the first thing I think has been about, like, is what I say, like, a bit legal issues, more of a topic, really, not really knowing what's what. Yeah. I think, you know, you and I are in our first year of working together, but I feel for the first time, everything was kind of covered to a point. But, you know, there was a bit of guesswork in there, or hope, you know, I've bought this template for 50 quid off the internet because my friend told me she did the same. Okay, fine. So I think in terms of like legal issues, it's been a case of perhaps not being as organised as I could have been, even though the intention to be absolutely safeguarded was there. I would say that's kind of been addressed now, because I voice note you most days, kind of saying, oh, can I just do this, or can you look at this for me, or can we do
the best part instead? Of my day.
We've changed this too. So that I would kind of say kind of like rectified there. I suppose the other kind of the other 2 parts of things have been about safeguarding the growth of my business. So things like making sure that trademarks are in place, so that, you know, someone can't run off with your idea, because it does happen. They get they like the title, or they see what you know what you're doing, or even if it's coincidence, but if you don't own it, then you're in trouble. You have to change your name.
Yeah.
So protecting the business there, because some people are, oh, you don't need to trademark it. It's like, you work 5 years growing a brand, and then someone knocks on your door and say you owe me 750 grand.
Yeah.
Sorry, what? Like, that's how serious it could be.
Yeah.
So getting clear there has been really important too, because I heard this great expression once, which is the first 3 years of business are about creating the business, the next 3 years are about protecting the business.
Yeah.
So I'm slightly late to that, but that was getting trademarks as almost like, you know, getting lunch. Oh, we have an idea. Right, Babs, can you trademark this for us? Like, it not being something to wait to do. I think it's been really powerful. Another thing that's been important in terms of, I wouldn't say issues, but areas for attention, are things like terms when your services do change. Because it only takes one person to be like, oh, I've seen this, and then it might, you know, get a bit heated, or they might call you out on social media. So I think that's really important as well, that everyone feels really protected. As in, I feel really good because I know the promises I've set out, and I know what I will and won't do. The client, the guest also knows the promises set out. They know I'm holding myself seriously to those two, and they know what will, and, you know, when they can have a refund, when they can't, and then they can decide if they want to sign up or not as part of that. So I wouldn't say there's been any kind of like stones in our shoe at this point, but I think I've been lucky around that, because I had enough in place to be covered, but it was with a bit of, oh, I hope that's all right. Whereas now I would say that we're exactly where we need to be, and I don't ever worry about that kind of thing anymore. And I think that's a big part of it, in terms of when you're working as hard as we all do to build our businesses, why wouldn't you do that safeguarding?
So what pushed you to move to that stage then?
Well, I knew that I was going to be going for some enormous financial targets, and there was just more to lose. Like, the higher the risk of it, actually. And if, God forbid, anything didn't happen, and, like, you know, one of the first things, when I had a legal audit with you, and you were like, send me all your insurance. And I was like, oh God, I haven't got the insurance. And you're like, you have got the insurance. Like, oh my God. Because it just takes one person to take umbrage with something, or, you know, because people can be malicious. What really changed it for me was, am I the director of a business who has all her shit together? Yes, I am. What does that include? My accountant is absolutely clear. I have a lawyer. I have that in place. There's no vulnerabilities that are there that aren't attended to. So for me, it was partly need, as in, like, I really should do because this is important, and partly about the up-level part of the business. I need an expert in my corner, because that's the business that I want to run and own. Has experts on call. They don't have to just, like, talk to their mates in WhatsApp. They have actual lawyers now in WhatsApp.
Like, that's when I'm being particularly facetious and annoying to people. I say, like, you put your big girl pants on, like, and it's not just legal, because, like, I've just put my big girl pants on with my accountancy stuff, because I thought that I could deal with all of this stuff by myself, when I can't even add 2 and 2 particularly well. I don't know, but we've just hired an accountant, and it's like a different one than we had before, and it puts your mind completely at ease, because they're the experts.
Yeah, absolutely. And we need it, because that's what our clients need, us being experts and focused on what's in front of us. And it's there too. So no, I totally get that.
I'm just going to pause this for 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's fine.
For those watching the video, I have a horrendous dog, and I apologize. It's very naughty.
I've got both of mine sleeping here. For those watching the video, I've got 2 enormous golden retrievers that usually scrap about this time, so we're quite lucky.
But she thinks they're badly behaved, and she hasn't met mine. Okay, so I think I've just got one final question for you then, Lucy. Well, it's a kind of mix of two. I was going to ask you if you could give a younger Lucy 3 pieces of business advice, what would it be? But then I think it's probably also relevant to our audience. So a younger coach doing something similar to you, or wanting to do something similar to you, what 3 pieces of advice would you give them?
Okay, and this sounds like a platitude, but I'm going to back it up. You have to trust the timing of how things unfold. I felt like a lot was happening a lot earlier for other people in my industry that I kind of started out with. whether it's social media growth, book deals, etc. Some of them aren't around anymore. I take no joy in saying that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Just that I know what it is to feel behind. But it's so important that we are just in the timing of what it is. Okay, so it might take 8 months instead of 4, or getting to you swipe up on Instagram or whatever the milestones are for you. You might be looking at a longer road than you'd like. You've got to keep at it. I also feel I didn't get into this until kind of about halfway through or so, but it's really important to have and set financial targets that you're working towards each month.
Yeah.
So if you have I'm going to just use easy maths because I'm not great with numbers either. I'm good with cash, but not with numbers. Let's say you want to make £10,000 a month. You need to sell 10 things that cost £1,000 or 20 things that cost £500.
Yeah.
What do you have? How is the business organized? What are you doing to do that? Because it might be that you are like really promoting one product for like 6 weeks to get there, so you build the traction. That's really important, rather, because a lot of us in business, and this isn't just for the newbies, we have an element of I'm just happy to be here, just really nice to be here, like I can cover my bills, I can fill my fridge, and that's it. Just happy to be here. And I will often say to clients, like, the time for favors is over. You have to be you have to kind of pull whatever size pants on you want, but there comes a time when you have to get really serious about the results you want, so you can get really serious about your action, because once you've decided that, you're already 70% of the way there. The other 30% is action and problem solving and having rests as well. I also, and this may be a little bit kind of more abstract, but as you continue to grow, which we all will do, your business is only going to go in one direction, that is forward and up, so maybe 2 directions. But you will come to milestones and you'll want to stop, or you'll think that's enough, I should just be grateful, and you need to not stop there. And that's going to take extra courage as well. If you're doing a bit better than your mates or a bit better than your family members, whatever better means, by the way, I'm not aligning any value judgments here. But when it goes from like, oh, my little side hustle, to you've got 3 employees and you've got tax problems, you're going to start to feel like, oh gosh, maybe, I'm not cut out for this, or no one I know has done this before. And that's when there's this wonderful kind of statement that comes in, which is, the question is not, is it possible? The question is, am I willing to believe this is possible for me? The question is not, is this possible? The question is, am I willing to believe this is possible for me? I constantly have to come back to this all the time. What do I need to believe in order for this to be true? Who do I need to talk to? What do I need to know? What do I need to stop doing, start doing, undo? What do I need to heal? What do I need to go to therapy about? How can I do what I can and be my own best friend, such that I allow myself to go for it and I dare to dream and I am audacious? And you don't have to put it on social media. You don't have to tell your mates. So you don't have to put it on, like, it doesn't have to go anywhere. It can just be for you. But we've kind of intimated this a little bit as part of our conversation. Having your own business will try you in ways you don't want to be tried. You'll come to know things about yourself you never wanted to know, out to know, and it will just, you'll have to, even if you don't embrace it, absorb that. And don't try and take the emotion out of business, because being in business is really emotional. That's why loads of people don't do it. It's really easy not to do it. Really easy not to have courage, because it does take courage every single day to show up for yourself in some way.
100%.
So important to think about, like, why you're doing what you're doing and the difference that makes, and it's okay to attach financials to that as well. Of course you're going to help, of course you're going to serve, of course you're going to make a contribution, but what about if you want to have 2 holidays a year as well? That's okay too. What about if you want to buy a car outright? That's okay too. What about if you want to pay off your parents' mortgage? That's okay too. Be really, really clear on how you quantify your success and why you're doing things, but not because anyone has to know on social media.
It's just for you.
I show what I show on social media is absolutely my real life, but it's not all my real life, and you don't have to show all your real life either. But it's so important to be longer game focused, because that's where a lot of the riches will really, really lie for you.
That's amazing. That was like a speech I'm going to listen back to.
I feel like I've just done a TED talk. I'm like, and another thing. And just one more. It's like, what are the 9 things you tell your younger self?
I find you so inspiring to listen to all the time.
Oh, that's a lovely thing to say.
It's so true though. It's so true. And as well as just being a really nice person, which helps.
Yeah.
You know when you hear inspiring things and you think, I bet that person's a knob. Like,
what a knob, love it.
Not Lucy.
Oh, bless you.
So in terms of self-promotion,
you
want to tell people where they can find you, how they can connect with you?
I would say over on the gram, so that I'm at Lucy Sheridan over on Instagram, and I'm there most days hanging out. And actually, most days we're just with my golden retrievers in the garden talking shit, frankly. But there are occasionally I do no, I'm being silly. I do share advice on there most days about comparison, and there are regular and daily updates of tools that I give away, and occasionally once a quarter I will have courses on as well. And that, is a place where you'll always find me, and hopefully there'll always be something to help you as well.
Thank you so much for sharing your precious time with us, Lucy. You have no idea how grateful I am for coming on. So thank you,
darling. Thank you for everything. I'd be lost without you.
Oh, have you had fun?
Yes, it's been great. 5 stars.
5 stars. TripAdvisor review.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Guys, obviously Lucy there sharing lots of knowledge and experience that will hopefully help you all. If you do want to reach out to Lucy, she's obviously given you the information there. Please do so. She's incredible at what she does. And if you have any questions for us, you can contact us on the website and the normal email address, all of which will be in the show notes. Thank you so much again, Lucy, and chat to you soon.
See you soon, love.
Bye. If you'd like to hear more about the Legal Leverage Framework and access some free resources, including free guides and trainings, pop over to our website, which is jamesonlaw.legal, and click on free resources. We hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. Tune into our next episode to learn more about how to grow and scale your business the right way.